are going on a little family outing. This is our last weekend before I have to go in with Marcelly for an admission. This is a scheduled admission and we aren't sure how long we're going to be there, but we are going to be incorporating the keto diet. Originally, the keto diet was designed for kids with epilepsy, and we are hopeful that we will at least get some amount of improved seizure control. Going out this weekend to try to just enjoy some time together before all the madness next week. Buddy, what have you done?
Cold?
Buddy, are you cold? Hey, I love you.
You ate the ice cream?
It is about 7 a.m. on Monday. I just called the transfer center at the hospital and they do not have like a bed designated for us yet. So they will call us and let us know when they have a bed available. So I'm gonna get up, get Liam ready for school, pack, probably head down there before lunch. I did not sleep well last night. Just super restless and anxious, to be honest. Head down there soon. Okay, so the transfer center said that they have a room for us. They did not tell me what room. I'm hoping that it's on the epilepsy wing. She said it was on the epilepsy wing, but here's the problem. There's like 2 sections that they technically consider epilepsy, and only one of them has the nurse to patient ratio that Marcelly really needs. My cat is losing her mind. The other one, the patient to nurse ratio is really high, and that is going to make me ridiculously nervous if we are starting keto, because her seizures could worsen before they get better. We are scheduled to be there between 10 and 11, so I've got to pack up. Stop. I will get you something to eat. I've got to pick up and get us ready to go. Running late. I am going to stop at Starbucks because I want breakfast and an actual good cup of coffee, because I don't have real Starbucks where I'm gonna be. Here's the paradox that exists within my soul. Okay, I refuse to do pumpkin spice latte until it actually feels like fall outside in Georgia, but my morning coffee must be hot. Doesn't matter what season, doesn't matter how hot it is outside, my morning coffee must be hot. Afternoon coffee,
ice cold, don't care. But morning coffee must be hot. But it will not be a pumpkin spice latte until it feels like fall outside. I recognize this makes no sense. It's fine. It is what it is.
Great day.
You too. All right, so Josh yesterday told me that he loved the apple crisp oat milk shaken espresso. We got the hot version of that. Why that's different than pumpkin spice latte? Again, don't ask me to explain things I can't explain. I feel like apple crisp, I don't know, like I could do apple in the summertime if I really wanted to. Anyway, so we got the toasty version of that. It's like a apple something macchiato. And our bacon egg whites, of course. All right, moment of truth. Ooh! Ooh, we like! Okay. Yes, I could drink this any time of year. 100%. That was a good choice. Okay. All right, we got gas. We will not make it by 11. That was when I was supposed to be there. We will not make it by 11. It's fine. We are here. We are settled. We've got to do some education, and she'll have to get baseline labs done. And it'll be mostly just resting today. They won't actually start keto formula until tomorrow, and it'll be kind of a gradual transition. We are just waiting on her to have an EKG for baseline assessment and a blood draw. So we've got to get baseline assessments for EKG and all of her medication levels and well, just all the things. She is exhausted. I'm exhausted. Oh, and hungry. But it's just a different feeling because most of the time when we have rushed to the hospital, it's been in a panic. You know, it's because we've had to go to the ER. We've had of the dozen plus hospital stays that we've had in the last 18 months, it's been mostly emergent visits. So having a planned visit is a little bit different because your brain has a little bit more time to kind of process everything, and it's just totally different circumstances. But it doesn't necessarily make hotel hospital any more enjoyable. But we're here, and she is happy overall, and we should start the keto formula tomorrow. We are hopeful for a Wednesday or Thursday discharge, but it is likely that we will be here till Friday if it takes her a little bit longer to enter into ketosis. So we shall see. Alright, things have slowed down, so I am going to go grab something to eat. Okay, but this barbecue had no business being this good. It is storming really, really bad. Like the wind, it looks like it's 9 o'clock outside. So we did a split feed where we had half of her feed was the new formula and half of it was her old formula. She kept it down for an hour, but then she started throwing into a seizure cluster and she vomited. It wasn't a ton of vomit, but it was like enough to just scare me as far as aspiration is concerned. She's in a cluster right now. She's had too many seizures to count. The nurses are getting her meds, and it's just hard to tell. It's like, are her seizures worsening because we put her on this new formula and her stomach's like, what the heck, I don't know what to do with this? Or is it because we have
horrible, horrible storms right now, and she always reacts poorly to storms like that. It could also be because she's overtired, because she didn't actually sleep the way that she normally sleeps today because of all the hospital admission stuff. So this is the part where I can't let my brain hyper focus on this too much, even though it's so freaking hard not to. We can only work with the tools that we have right now. So the first step is to get her seizure meds, her regular meds, because she's due for them anyway, and hope that she goes to sleep, and hope that she tolerates the feeds well. I'm probably going to ask them to slow the rate down a bit for the next feed to give her stomach a break. It's frustrating. It is almost 8 o'clock in the morning. I had the hardest time going to sleep last night. I think I was up till probably 2:30ish. I was so frustrated this morning because since she's on keto, she has to have labs drawn frequently and has to have a pretty significant amount of blood drawn to monitor her levels, which is fine. We also opted in to participate in a research study for keto because I'm very pro research, especially for kids like her. Like, if research helps kids like her, you know, that's huge. But that means that she has to have more blood drawn each time. And I might end up opting out of this study if this continues to be an issue. But every single time we've been in the hospital, I mean, for the last dozen times that we have been here, we have been told to always call the IV team for her for blood draw or IV placement, because she is such a hard stick, and because sticking her multiple times can throw her into seizure clusters. They had not been listening to me, and I'm so frustrated. Yesterday, the first person who came in trying to draw blood on her was digging and bruised her arm so badly, and I was like, immediately call IV team. They didn't do it. They sent in, I guess, whoever's like a team lead, and thankfully the team lead got it. But then this morning, same thing. Somebody came in, and by the way, they're not nice about it. I will never understand this. I will never understand why lab techs, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, they come in, they see that you're sleeping, and they waltz in and go, "Good morning!" And I'm like, "Hi," and they say, "Okay, I'm here for the lab," and they throw on the lights, like, and then they go digging in her arm. I'm like, she would probably be a little less caught off guard, considering that she's blind, and you're coming in like hollering, and she can sense changes in light and stuff, but she can't see you. Like, she would probably be less afraid of you if you would not be so rude. I told the nurse that we are not doing any more blood draws on her unless she has IV team. But apparently it's policy that they have to get stuck by whoever comes in the room, a team leader supervisor, and then they'll call IV team. I'm like, okay, so you want her to get stuck 3 times. She's a baby. What? And you have so much blood to draw on her. Like, why would you not want to preserve her vessels? It makes no sense. Need coffee so bad. She kept desatting. Her oxygen was reading like 89, 87. Picked her up, put her on my chest, and that's what happened. She's perfectly fine. Ma'am, if you're smiling, why the dramatics? She has been clustering all afternoon at this point. I have no idea why. We had talked about swabbing her for some viruses to see if that's contributing. But even so, like, even if she did test positive, there's really nothing that we could do for that. And we wouldn't necessarily stop keto, so it's like, is there really a point in running that test? They gave her 2 doses of her typical rescue med. They're going to give her a heavier rescue med through the IV now, because we've just got to stop the clustering. She's not stopping. And then they're going to load her. They're going to do a load of one of her regular maintenance meds, and hopefully that will stop. This happens, like, it's not always, but it can happen where we go through this period of seizures getting worse as we're trying to enter ketosis, because it's a gradual process to enter into ketosis. There's a possibility that if she continues with the difficulty with the seizures, that we might have to go up to the PICU. And the only reason for that would be because she would need just more attention as we enter into the ketosis. It doesn't mean that keto is failing. It just means that her body is having a hard time adjusting. We won't really know if it's successful if we can't get her into a state of ketosis. So, and I mean, her brain is just so much more irritable than the average brain. All of us, even with typical brain structure, get mad when we go on diets. We get irritable and tired and don't feel great, so it just affects her more. Hopefully we can break up the seizures. That's the goal for right now. All right, so she finally settled down and she's asleep now. I had my food. I'm going to try to go to sleep early since I did not sleep last night. We ended up having to bump up her oxygen, which isn't surprising considering how many seizures that she's had today. Obviously not ideal. It's not more than what we have at home though. It's just on the higher end of what we have at home. We just have to keep an eye on that and hope that she has a better day tomorrow. We really, really, really don't want to have to move up to the PICU because the hospital is packed right now and there's no telling where they would end up putting us in the PICU. Some of the rooms in this hospital are so old, so tiny. We really don't want to have to move if we don't have to. So we're hoping for a better day tomorrow so that we don't have to move and cause her more stress. We'll see. Alright, baby girl is getting her morning respiratory treatment, so we are going to get coffee and then breakfast. She is clustering again. They tried to draw blood for her labs this morning off of her IV that they placed yesterday, and it's not working, so they're gonna have a V team come and try again. It just sucks, y'all. It sucks. She's trying so hard to go to sleep, but she is still seizing. I don't really have words right now. ideal, but it's literally like our only option right now, because with the amount of medications that she is having for controlling her seizures, she's going to exhaust herself from a respiratory standpoint. So we need to be in a space where if they had to intubate her, which again, not ideal, where we could do that safely and quickly. So basically the plan right now is to move her up to the PICU. That way she'll have quicker care, fast, more attention. And we still are thinking that she's just having a really hard time transitioning into ketosis. She's not in full ketosis yet. She could also have some pre-existing aggravation within her lungs. We're going to do a chest x-ray. She's vomited several times over the past week or so, so it's possible she could have aspirated something, but her viral panel came back negative. Her blood work has come back great, so we're just going to do a chest x-ray to see if there's something else that we're missing. It doesn't mean, again, that we would stop keto. It just means that she might need her comfort even more prioritized as we move into this. If she continues to have seizures, then we will start loading her with some of her maintenance meds. So we would do when they say you would do like a phenobarb load, it means that they would do a big push of phenobarbital, which is something she already takes, but that could make her sedated, hence why we are going up to the PICU. Worst case scenario, if the loads don't work, we might have to put her on Versed, which would probably require her to be intubated, and we really, 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 really don't want to do that. But again, it's not uncommon for kids to get worse before they get better on keto. Marcelly's just very complex, and her level of worse drastically different than most other kids. I think that if I could go back and do this all over again, I kind of wish that we had sat down and honestly tried to get her in the PICU to begin with. I don't know how that works with hospital policies and things like that, but I do kind of wish that we had more of a roundtable discussion with all of her specialists. It's just hard. It's hard to organize that, right? And hindsight's always 20/20, and I could sit here and say that I would have liked that, but the reality is implementing that probably would have been really, really freaking difficult and might have delayed us getting her in for keto. I will say though, that with kids as complex as Marcelly, when you are doing big changes like this, and when it is likely that they will need extra care, I think starting off with more intervention to be on the safe side, and I say more intervention as in like starting them off in a space where they can get more attention, would be ideal. But our hospital is not unlike other hospitals in the sense that there are very minimal beds right now. Still hopeful. This is just it's that period of it's gonna get worse before it gets better, and we're in the worst. So one thing that kind of caught me off guard, there were several nurses that were kind of standing to figure out how they could help in terms of the transition and stuff. And I think a lot of times too, I've noticed that particularly with cases as complex as Marcelly, sometimes nurses will stand in, charge nurses in particular, so that they can learn, so that they can kind of see how parents advocate or what they need, because they'll hang around after the doctors leave and they'll probe a little bit more, not in a disrespectful way, but just in like a how can I be here to support you way. And that's appreciated. I had a nurse that when all the doctors left, she said, okay, Mama, we've got the plan in place, like we're ready to move forward, we know what we need to do. Amazing advocacy as always. I almost started crying. It's one of those situations where like you're proud of yourself, but you're also frustrated that you have to advocate as hard as you do. And I share a lot of what I share because I want parents to know what questions to ask and how to ask them, because it's not disrespectful to ask questions. It's not disrespectful to push. One of the epileptologists that was here, she said, I basically told her, that we've had 36 hours now of if she's awake, she's seizing, and we've got to get her to sleep. And she said, well, does she have stuff going on while she sleeps? And I forget what the phrase was that she used, but it wasn't clicking in my brain at the time. I said, I don't know. I was like, I'm not sure kind of what you're asking. And she said, well, maybe we can get an EEG on her to see. And I went, nope. And I literally asked, I said, what would the purpose of that be? What would we treat differently? And she goes, you're right. I don't know. And I said, are you asking if she has activity while she's asleep? Because if that's what you're asking, yes, she has activity all the time. She has subclinical stuff all the time. It's just these clinical seizures, these seizures that we can see, she's having them constantly when she's awake, and we've got to get it to stop. We're not going to be able to chase the ones that are happening while she's asleep, but we've got to at least get the ones while she's awake to stop. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. And I've learned to ask that question. I've learned to ask that question of, what is the purpose of that? Like, pause for a second. Why is it that you're wanting to do that test? Why is it you're wanting to move us here? Why is it that we're wanting to implement this or use this medicine instead of this medicine? And sometimes there are things that I'm not thinking about that they have line of sight to, that I don't, because this is their specialty. My specialty is my kid. Their specialty is much broader. I've learned to ask that question. Why? Why are we doing this? Because and I used to appreciate when parents would ask me that as a physical therapist, because it might sound good, it might be the textbook answer, it might be the next textbook step forward, but it forces me to look at the kid and go, what is my purpose with that? And that's exactly what happened in this scenario, where her doctor went, you know what, in this scenario, there's no purpose in doing that. That might have been my textbook answer. My textbook answer might have been, we need to see what's going on. But in this case, we don't need to see what's going on. We know what's going on. We know that's likely not going to change. And we know right now that the biggest issue is her clinical seizures while she's awake that we've got to get to stop. So that's one question that I've learned to ask, and it has helped tremendously.